the hell are they doing if they're not still able to get that confidence against wrist spinners?
Bangladesh do just enough, the very bare minimum, unfortunately, I have to say, to keep their Champions Trophy hopes alive and well as of now. It's still going to be a long wait till we find out how things transpire. As for Pakistan, well, it's another disappointing flight to the Lahore airport because, once again, a story of so close yet so far. Here to discuss that once again, today with me is Fardin Kibria in today's show of the morning after. Fardin, doubleheader, both, I don't want to say anticlimactic. They were both fairly interesting matches, but at the same time, nothing too drastic to take away. Where do we
Yeah,
start? Let's start
yeah,
from Bangladesh. Batting
yeah. I
first, getting
mean,
that big score.
yeah. I think where Bangladesh went wrong is um, you get only 65 runs in the last 10 overs. It never helps you. So we were talking about it while we were watching it live. Is we had such a good start, and then people just started throwing away their wickets. Um, you know, at a point you are thinking, okay, maybe 350 is on. At the rate that things are going, but I think in the context of both of the matches, you look at it, runs there for a lot of people from the three teams who have been quite underwhelming. Bangladesh very underwhelming, obviously, compared to the other two, who at least got 3 and 4 wins respectively. Um, and you see runs here and there for a few guys, and you think it's too late for any of that, right? And um, you could have had some of that before, but it doesn't matter anymore because um, you didn't get it when it mattered, and you come to a flat track and you feast on it. But even then, in Bangladesh's case, they didn't make use of it fully, and like I said, 303 on the board, and just not
306.
303, 306 on the board. Just end of the day, just wasn't enough because Australia never looked bothered at all.
Looking at the positives, everyone in the top five getting a 30 plus score, everyone in the top
Yeah,
seven getting a 20 plus score.
yeah,
Before we get into the disappointing modes of dismissal, uh, that's a positive, right? The batters are finally starting to score some runs. It's just a question of where were they all throughout
yeah,
this
yeah.
tournament.
Yeah, that's what you ask. You look at like someone like Ben Stokes, he got runs last 3 games of the tournament. And then you look at Bangladesh today, after the whole tournament, the whole top five decided to contribute to the team's cause. And a lot of it goes back to, people are batting in familiar positions. People are batting in comfortable positions that they were batting in prior to the World Cup. People like Shanto, Toij Hridoy, Toij Hridoy was batting like freaking 7 and 8 the whole World Cup. Got a good opportunity today and made use of it. He looked really good for the whole innings. You could say obviously he threw it away at the end, but his shot selection, the way he maintained a really good strike rate from the ball from the get go. He rotated strike really well with Shanto. Shanto, he played the cross batted shots really well against the Pacers, dancing down the track or whatever it is. Similar with Tanjit Tamim and Liton Das, they got really good starts. These are obviously what is it like, you can say, oh yeah, it's good signs, but it's not really a good sign when it comes at the bottom end of the tournament, right? Because it is a good sign when we saw these kind of results at the warm-up matches where guys were getting runs and we thought, okay, there are things to look forward to. So Mahmudullah Riyad, same thing again, comes through again, the only 300 plus run scorer for Bangladesh this World Cup. So yeah, it's just a case of it's too late, unfortunately.
Now getting to the disappointing modes of dismissal, starting with the openers. Tanzit Tamim still having a short ball problem. Lidon Kumar Das throwing it away in the most ridiculous fashion.
It's just,
Basically a
it's
nothing
just,
shot.
it's a. I mean, like, what was he even trying to achieve with that shot? Like, you look at it, and Was he gonna clear the outfield at any time with that shot? He did not even like. There is one thing which is playing a chip shot for one, and there is one thing which is literally giving catching practice. And you know, I literally talked about it in one of the group chats that we're in, maybe 2 or 3 overs before Litton actually got out, that you can't just time the ball after the ball gets old. It doesn't work like that, right? Like, unfortunately, cricket is like that. If bowlers like Zampa are smart, as soon as Zampa came into that, Bangladesh started inside edging everything, and it looked like it was only a matter of time. Similarly, I think on Fox prior to the game, they talked about Tanzit Tamim having a short ball problem. Obviously, we've seen it both, in maybe 4 or 5 of the fixtures in the World Cup where he's been caught glove, top edged, or whatever it is, um, of the short ball. And today's dismissal, you could probably call it almost comical or village, to some extent, because it's just like, what are you doing? So yeah, I mean, don't you think it's almost familiar dismissals that just come around each time, which means that people have not worked on their weaknesses.
Players, when they get set, unfortunately, they haven't understood the value of putting money on your wicket. And for
Yeah,
them, putting money on the wicket is, taking 15 deliveries to get the last 5 runs to reach a milestone. That is not the
that is
money on the
no,
wicket we're
no,
referring to.
no.
It's your ability to not throw away wickets in the most ridiculous fashions, in ways
Yeah,
that you're not in a situation where I'm better off getting out rather than playing a few singles or
yeah,
playing a few
yeah.
dot balls, getting a couple of runs here and there. No, you are not in that sort of a situation. Why would you think like that? Why aren't you thinking about taking your innings further? Why aren't you thinking about expanding on the start that you got? Why would you possibly think that, no, I have to hit this nothing shot and see if I can get six over here?
Get a
If
six
you're
out
not
of it.
willing
Yeah,
to muscle the ball, play it
yeah,
down the ground.
yeah,
I am not a
yeah.
coach. I am not the one who's supposed to be telling you this, but
No,
come on,
this
man.
is this is the most basic thing about playing spinners, right? If it's not in your zone, if it's not there for a big shot, ideally, as a top order batter in an international game, you should be hitting a full length ball for six. Half volley should be going for four or a six. Basic, right? But if it doesn't happen, if that's something that is not your zone, your zone could be a sweep shot or a pedal sweep or across the line, whatever it is, it can be different player to player. All you have to do, hit long on and long off for a single each time. That's it. Keep rotating, keep rotating. Or if you're gonna play that shot, at least run down the wicket so you have some momentum behind the ball. If you're just sitting there and you go, what is that gonna get you? Like, at a point, I think Adam Zampa was even like laughing at the fact that that wicket came that way, because he was like, he didn't even bowl a good delivery to get the wicket. He just threw it away. And that's the toughest thing, as fans or as what the viewers of the game is. You just look at guys. I mean, like, unfortunately, we're at an era where after you've played 7, 8 years of international cricket, if you're only getting a good 30 and you're throwing it away, it's not good enough. That's simple. Like,
Definitely not at this level.
yeah, people like Marcus Harris getting dropped after scoring good-looking 30s in freaking Sheffield Shield by Justin Langer, and we freaking give guys a long rope after 8, 9 years, and they say 25, 16, 25, 26 average isn't bad. Like,
Moving on, the two runouts, possibly
mm,
costing us 20 to 30 runs at the end.
that's the 350 or 340 that you didn't have essentially. Um, One of the articles that came out in the last 24 hours or so, Marnus Labuschagne has been involved in 7 runouts at the World Cup. 7 runouts, which he's actually caused himself, and they were all marginal, very marginal runouts, and it shows his arm speed and basically his ability to get the ball either on a full or on one bounce to the keeper. And keepers almost know that he's always going to be within touching distance of the stumps. So the carry is not even that bad because all for them it's just a quick movement, right? Why are you taking on the best fielder? And one of the things that happened, actually, this is not even taking on the best fielder. Like Shanto's dismissal was him literally thinking, in Bangladesh, when guys are fielding at point and the ball goes like maybe 2 or 3 yards beside them, they put their hand up for third man to go collect the ball. This is simple. We see it all the time. And it's like, huh? Because they don't want to put in the dive, so they should send it to third man, right? He thought that shot, Marnus had no chance of getting there, and that Pat Cummins was going to run in, pick it up, throw. Obviously, all of that is going to take time. Marnus covered the ground, slid in, one pickup, one throw, and he's caught short. That's not having the game sense of what others might actually do. Tell me about Mahmudullah's run up. Like, how bad is that?
That was Tauhid Ridoy's call
So I
to
did
begin with.
this. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He
but
clearly signaled it that the ball's
yeah,
here. Point isn't going to get to it. It looked like he had no idea about
yeah,
the stat that you mentioned about Marnus Labuschane's fielding. And honestly, in that moment, I can't blame the batter for not overthinking the run. But when it's a 50-50 call, cricket, like any other sport, still is a mind
yeah,
game, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it. So,
yeah,
on that position, you can think, okay, no, this is a 50-50 call, I'm going to make it. You have to also remember that you are young, you are fast. Mahamadullah Riyad, on the other
Mahmoud
end,
is
is 38.
yeah,
He
yeah,
isn't quick enough to make the ground that you would make.
yeah,
You have to
exactly.
assess these things. If you're not assessing the opponent fielder, the least you can do is assess your senior batting partner. Or if you had someone else on the other end, let's say you had someone like Shanto, it would be more excusable. We
Yeah,
know Shanto is
yeah,
quick. We know Lijon Das is quick. We know these
yeah,
guys can make the ground. Mahmudullah Riyad is still fit. He's not slow. He's just not as fast as some of the younger guys for obvious
yeah,
reasons.
yeah, yeah. And the other thing is sometimes there's like a little technical fault in how guys run, where they're turning blind, so they're not able to see where the ball is. So if you are able to see where the ball is, you have that responsibility there to make that decision because it falls on you to protect both of you at that position. So I mean, like we can talk about it all day, but this is at the international level, like you said, at this level in this day and age, it's just not good enough to be doing these things.
So one more
And
thing I
then we'll
wanted to
have an
highlight,
interview.
getting into Australia's bowling attack.
Yeah,
Uh, is it unfair to say that, again, Adam Zampa having a brilliant tournament, he's now the highest wicket taker, having overtaken Dilshan Madhushanka.
yeah,
Is it a little unfair to say that 2 for 32 doesn't show that he actually bowled? I mean, sorry, he didn't actually bowl as well as a 2 for 32 would suggest.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you you look at it. Like I said, they started inside edging everything, and he wasn't even bowling good lines. The wicket ball to Litton, like I said before, wasn't really a good ball. There was an over in the middle where Tauhid Ridar took him for maybe 10 runs or 15 runs or something like that, where he hit that big six. Um, Mahmudullah obviously chanced his arm against Travis Head. But with Zampa, I think a lot of what Zampa's returns look like is also kind of due to Australia's ability with the new ball at the World Cup. I'm sorry, but Australians are making fun of England's results at the World Cup, but Australia's bowling with the new ball is equally bad. They have not swung a ball over 1 degree in I don't even know how many matches. How is that possible?
with Hazelwood and Stark taking the new ball.
Like this is crazy. Like I have not seen something like that in my life. Um, Honestly, for as long as I have watched this current Australian team play, these guys have been like the big three for them and everything. So for them not to be, uh, what can you say, like swinging the ball is obviously concerning. But do you think Zampa is bowling too slow these days, or is he trying to extract a lot from the surfaces? Like for me, it seems like he's bowling a lot more loopy rather than before, where he would change it up and bowl like some quicker deliveries in between.
I don't think it's even about getting anything out of the surface, but it feels as if the batters were expecting him to kind of try and rush them, which
Yeah,
hasn't happened because he slowed it
yeah,
down. The batters have had a hard time taking charge against him. You got to remember, see, what's different from today is that a lot of other teams, not every other team, but a lot of other teams do tend to try and attack the wrist spinner, regardless of who the wrist spinner
who
is.
this?
Especially
Yeah,
someone like Zampa, they will try and attack. They don't automatically go into this defensive mode whenever they see a wrist spinner. And
especially
that
guys like
helps.
Markram and Miller and
Absolutely,
Klassen, right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
And so when
yeah,
you slow it down, when you don't give them the pace that they are anticipating for the wrist spinner, because wrist spinners these days, especially in white ball cricket, bowl far quicker than their older predecessors or counterparts,
yeah,
however you want to look
yeah,
at it. So
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
definitely helps. That sort of subverts the expectations of the batters. As of today, it felt more of an intimidation thing for Bangladesh, as usual. Just you see a wrist spinner and you start overthinking, you start getting intimidated for no actual reasons.
yeah.
It was a case of
It's
that.
just, yeah. I mean, like you look at the way Shanto was hitting the ball off the paces, albeit it's Mitchell Marsh and Marcus Stoinis bowling halfway down the pitch on their own half. Freaking someone tell these guys to bowl on the batsman's half at least. Uh, but the shot execution was looking really good. Whereas as soon as Zampa came on, it's almost like he's forgotten how to hold the bat. And that has been our leg spin or wrist spin issue. My question is, what have they learned in the nets? They've taken an under 19 guy named Wasi Siddiq to India. He's bowled, he's a leg spinner, he's bowled in the nets the whole World Cup. KK Gias has been there. He's one of those guys that every traveling team to India basically seeks out because he knows the conditions across India really well. He's a wrist spinner, left arm wrist spinner. What the hell are they doing if they're not still able to get that confidence against wrist spinners? Are they not the right guys that you're practicing against? Or maybe do you need to seek other guys? Are there better leg spinners that you can seek out? Or guys are just not learning from their mistakes? I mean, I don't even know where to start unraveling that.
Because some of these players have been playing international cricket for so long that
Hmm.
it's probably the latter. It's probably them not learning quick enough because had they had the ability to learn this whole art of playing wrist spin, they would
Yeah,
have because
yeah,
it's no longer an excuse when you play 7 8 years of international cricket. It's no longer an excuse that our domestic structure doesn't have enough wrist spinners. You're not playing enough domestic cricket to begin with.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
playing international cricket for such a long time. Every other team has a wrist spinner. You are playing these wrist spinners. Some of
yeah,
you are playing in various leagues. Those leagues have wrist spinners. It just
yeah,
doesn't make sense after a certain point that you're still somehow so intimidated by them. They're not aliens. They're still bowlers. There
it's
is still
it's
a tactic
yeah.
that you can have for facing these bowlers.
These guys act like, oh, this is the first time I'm seeing something like this in the cricket. Like, this is like how people were acting when Ajanta Mendes first came into the scene, and he was literally bowling straight deliveries, and freaking people like Rahul Dravid were playing across the line because they had no idea where the ball was going to turn and whatnot because he'd shown six different deliveries in the last over. It's not like that.
And the decision, I think this is the end of Bangladesh's batting
Oh my
discussion as of
god.
now. The decision to send Nazum ahead of Mahedi.
Oh my god. What? So why did you even pick the guy? To just open your bowling? That's it? You consider him a full all rounder, bowling all rounder or batting all rounder, whatever it is that he's considered. How does sending your frontline spinner ahead of him make sense? Like, I at this point I don't even know who's making these calls. It's like, like Ravi Shastri jokes about Bangladesh cricket teams batting order being a lottery, and it sometimes it literally feels like, yo, whose name just came out of the hat. How do you justify sending? Like, I know Nasum has the ability to hit sixes, but at that position, at that situation, there is no need to send him over Sheikh Mehdi. Sheikh Mehdi can hit sixes too. It's not like he can't hit the ball, right? When these all of these guys collapsed against, yeah, Netherlands, at least he scored 20 runs or whatever until he got run out, and he played a few good shots here and there. So, like, it's just mind-boggling. I don't even know who makes these decisions at points.
Sheikh Mehdi is finishing for you in BPL. On occasions, he's doing it in the Dhaka League as well.
Yeah,
What are you taking out of these leagues if you don't use the players the way the leagues are using them? I mean, something has to come out of this, right?
like it's
There's a
like
reason he's
Nas.
playing that role over there. That's the reason you're selecting him. That's one of the reasons why he did well in the emerging cup. He was
Yeah,
finishing the innings very
yeah,
well at
very
number
well.
7.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you might as well have brought Mossadegh at this point.
I know. Like, if you're picking guys of form and like performances from a particular position, particular role, that's what they deserve to be playing. No? If you're gonna pick them, like, should be simple. But I guess it's not.
The bowling innings, not much to say other than the constant disappointment that happens to
Yeah,
be Bangladesh's spin bowling attack. Of course, without Shakib, they look even more toothless.
yeah,
But we had all three spinners on display today. Mahedi, the least we can say is he bowls a little defensively after the first couple of overs where he was
yeah,
going for a few. And
yeah,
to his credit, he held the batters at bay, at least for a
yeah,
while. But the
yeah,
other two, I mean, you call them bowling machines from time to time. I don't see how anyone can refute that at this point.
yeah, yeah. It's just these guys just bowl it on the spot. It's almost like they have no intention of taking a wicket. Like, when, as a spinner, you have two different roles. You look at how Mitch Santner's played this year at the World Cup. He's played that containment role and he's played the wicket taking role. You look at someone like, what's his name? I even forgot his name right now. Ravindra Jadeja. Same thing. He's bowling within the power play. He's getting the wickets, or if he needs to support a pacer, he's doing that. Our spinners are literally useless. And with Shakib not there, it's almost like no one has any intention to make anything happen. Guys are not even adventurous. They don't. You're defending 306, 307. If you don't have the little bit of heart to think that I can use something else to maybe create a wicket here, you shouldn't be playing international cricket. Like, 10 overs 85 for Nasum, Miraj 6 overs 47. Like, what is that? Nasum, we were talking about Azam Zampa bowling it a little slower because guys are expecting him to come harder, come quicker. And, it's a mind game thing, right? It's a simple mind game thing for him because he's changing up the speeds. Guys are expecting different speeds all the time. Nasum is just bowling one speed. He's trying to rush guys. Miraj is just bowling machine, one spot all day. It's not gonna work in white ball cricket. I'm sorry. Like, you cannot be successful in white ball cricket like that. This is not test cricket. The white ball and the red ball are very different. In a red ball game, you're also using one ball for the whole innings. In a white ball game, in a ODI game, you're using two different balls. So the balls are not even that old. It's a very hard ball. It's a very new ball almost all the time when you're bowling. So you as a bowler have a responsibility to extract something out of the surface. And, like, if they're bowling in tandem, did they ever look like to you that they have any chance of picking a wicket?
Not once. And it didn't look like they actually assessed the situation that, hold on, 300 is a big target. They can get to
Yeah,
150 for two or 150
yeah,
for one, and we can still
and
start
still,
picking up wickets and get into the game. I don't
yeah,
think they thought along those lines, to be honest.
never looked like it. The whole innings just never looked like it. You're getting cut off the back foot as an off spinner. You should stop moving.
At this point, I mean, I don't want to be too reactionary, but at this point, I might as well bring someone like Sabir Rahman and play him as a specialist spinner.
Yeah, yeah. Like you might think this is an emotional statement from us, right? But it's honestly, we don't get anything out of bowling like this. You do not gain anything. You look at Muhammad Nabi. I know he has years of experience ahead of these guys, maybe whatever. But look at his use of angles. Miraj lands at the same spot on the crease every delivery. His delivery lands at the same spot. His body lands at the same position. There is no change. There is no different thing in the formula. There is no coming around the wicket. There is no like nothing. It's just one formula. Just keep going with it. And as soon as it's a flat track, this is the same thing that happens when they go to Chittagong. Right? If they go to Chattogram, they forget how to bowl. And in Mirpur, everyone looks like they're the best bowler in this country. What is the benefit of that?
I think that's it. That pretty much sums it up. In Mirpur, you keep bowling the same line and length. Your ball automatically starts to vary in line and
Yeah,
length. And it seems like it's varying in line and length just
yeah,
because the odd one turns, the other one goes straight, one
yeah.
keeps low, one has the extra bounce. The pitch does everything for
Everything.
you.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not getting to
There's no
develop
skill
your skill.
involved. Yeah, there's no
Nothing,
skill
literally
involved.
nothing.
Nothing, nothing. You put any youngster out there, 16, 17-year-old, against a international team, even he'll do well at Mirpur.
You need sporting wickets to make it's very weird. You need sporting wickets to make both pacers and spinners. With pacers, you can't give them those sort of wickets and expect
No.
them to suddenly be successful because you have to learn to bowl fast on pitches which are conducive to fast bowling. That
Yep.
is why
Yeah.
regions like Australia and South Africa will always keep producing fast bowlers. India have produced an amazing generation of fast bowlers. It is something that time will tell whether they can repeat that once
Yeah.
they're done with Bumrah, Shami. Uh,
Yeah.
who else is there?
Siraj.
Siraj. Once
Yeah.
they're done with this generation, we'll find out how good the next set of crop
Pipeline
is.
is. Yeah, but you look at some guys like Hangar Gekar and Shivam Mavi and Kamlesh Nagarkoti, and there are young guys in the pipeline who can bowl fast. Umran Malik, they're obviously wayward.
And
That's the problem with them.
the best part is the different state boards. I'm not even talking about
Yeah,
BCCI at this point. The
yeah,
different state boards ensure
yeah,
that they get those green tops at
yeah,
least for the first few games of the season so that the
yeah,
Pacers can come into play.
yeah. I mean, just to put it into context for you, Naim Hassan opened the bowling in NCL yesterday. He took a 7 for. On the opposite end, Nurul Hassan scored 134 and Afif scored 81 and then just threw it away to like Gully. But my point is, if an off spinner is still opening the bowling for you in your domestic competition, there's something wrong. And your lack of success at the international level has a direct correlation to this. It's simple.
And the whole thing about it either being an off spinner or Shomo Sarkar opening the bowling for you.
Hmm.
I-
Like
Choose your
the
poison.
the spectrum is like this big, and yeah, choose your poison. I mean, and honestly, it's not good enough for guys like Marnus, Smith, Marsh. These are world class batters. One of our friends in one of the group chats said, "Yo, you get away from Travis Head and David Warner, you still stuck with four guys who can freaking score these runs by themselves on any given day." And as we saw, Marsh literally, like, this is worse than the 2019 loss to England. Like, that's how bad it was. They were so confident of chasing this down. The whole time they were just pacing it like, oh, we're gonna chase 400 at a semi-final game. We'll pace it at that way. You know, that's why they never had to do anything out of the ordinary. And people might say, oh, we made them bat for 45 overs. Yes, big achievement.
They knew they didn't want it's. It almost felt like if they wanted to finish it by 35 overs, they 100% could have. They
Yeah,
just didn't need to do that. They had no
no,
reason to do that. Rather,
no
they
reason.
enjoyed the time out there, getting a bit of batting time. And at one point, it almost felt as if Marsh wanted to retire himself out, get someone else in, maybe someone like
Yeah,
Stoinis, get him some batting time.
yeah,
But talking about Mitch Marsh's innings, how good was this innings? He pretty much, other than that little bit of lull when he was waiting to get to his century, other than that,
yeah,
he pretty much batted in one gear from the
yeah,
beginning to the end, and that is Mitch Marsh. I mean, if he's not opening, we don't expect him to go out there and take his time. He doesn't need to bat like a typical number three because there
yeah.
are two stabilizers just
Best, yeah,
behind him.
yeah,
So his innings and the way David Warner and Steve Smith supported him.
yeah. I mean, you look at where Mitch Marsh has come since 2021, where he played a very big part in Australia's World Cup winning squad in UAE for the T20 World Cup. His like you said, his mantra is one way. He plays Test matches, ODI cricket, T20s that same way. But it's not mindless slugging; it's risk with mind, right? He makes very sensible decisions while he's at the crease, and I think a lot of his performance is a little bit inspired by what Maxwell did in the last game, where he carried the ship by himself. And Marsh has always talked about him being that kind of a player where he wants to be able to carry the team home by himself. So if you look at today's innings, like you said, except that lull before he got to 100, it was well paced. He was playing good shots, and he never looked like there was a ball that could get him out. Sometimes guys look like there's a weakness in the innings, but they're just avoiding the weakness somehow. Never. That whole innings, he did not look like for one bit that he would have scored 250 today if they batted first. Like, I'm being honest, right? The way he batted. And I think, Maxwell not being there, you're probably looking at Stoinis getting dropped next game, the semifinals. Um, they're not gonna drop Marnus, given the way he's at least batted in the World Cup and he's fielded. So
English has
Marshall,
underperformed, but they literally cannot drop him.
no, like who they gonna play? Alex Carey, bat him at 8.
Oh no, Warner can keep again.
Warner can. Oh, Marnus can keep. He was practicing keeping yesterday before the game.
We
He,
saw Stark practicing, by the way. Yeah,
I didn't
that's
catch
the
that.
weird part. Stark was practicing keeping, and I think it was one of the commentators, maybe Ian Bishop, said that apparently this is probably a training he's getting at home from Elisa Healy.
Elise Healy, yeah,
I mean, to
yeah,
be fair, when you're married to one of the best wicket keepers of
best.
women's cricket, you can get some training.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's not a bad place to start. David Warner, he's looked really good, right? For someone who was looking like um, maybe some contentious. We called it when Travis Head comes back, who gets dropped? Maybe Warner, right? Marsh said it himself that he actually offered Warner jokingly that you want to bat at 3. I'm enjoying batting at the opening position, right? But yeah, I mean, Warner's gone strength to strength at the World Cup. Steve Smith seems to have found his hands again. He talks about finding his hands. I don't know what that means, but good for Australia. He's found them. So, yeah, Australia just look to be an exceptionally motivated side post their first 2 games where they, took a bit of beating. Favorites for that semi-final fixture against South Africa.
Favorites as of now, maybe a 60-40 or at best a 65-35. Not like,
Yeah.
strong, massive
Not
favorites.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
65-35 looks good. I mean, it's it's Eden Gardens. You never know what to expect. The pitch
Yeah.
has something for everyone. It's not the typical Kolkata pitch that we saw in the early, not early 2010s, or forever pretty much up until
Forever. Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
Ganguly decided to change it after 2014.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gotta be, there's gonna be something for everyone, and that's gonna be interesting. And our next game, England Pakistan. Neither of the teams are making it to the top four, but
Yeah. Congrats on
both have at
everyone.
least
Congrats to everyone for making Champions Trophy.
Champions Trophy. I mean, Pakistan had it written.
I had it, obviously. Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
had it written.
It didn't matter where they finished on the table. Yeah.
As for England, they did pretty well. I mean, to finish the tournament i- in such
Two
a high,
wins.
it's a good thing for at least for the likes of David Willey and Ben Stokes, who are
Yeah,
likely to never, not David Willey is not likely. He's definitely not going to play ODI cricket or any
yeah,
form of cricket anymore.
yeah.
Ben Stokes might go back to retirement again.
Yeah, he's talked about, I know, he said he's going to make the decision after his surgery. And he's got big plans with the guest team, whatever those plans mean. They're just going to come hard with
Did
the test.
Pakistan with both bat and ball look a little disheartened by the fact that they couldn't win the toss?
Yeah, I mean, I think as soon as Butler's did his smirk and he said, "We'll bat first," I
And
think
this, we cannot
Pakistan.
attribute this to malice because England won their previous game batting first. England looked a better side whenever they
Bro,
bat
Butler's
first.
Butler's got every right to do whatever he wants. He doesn't need to play into the interest of emotions or teams and this that. Like, oh, we'll let Pakistan bat first. Maybe they'll get to 450. They have a chance of making it to the semis. It's not about that. He needs to win a game. Simple.
Kudrate
He
Nizam isn't Butler suddenly deciding to bowl
deciding.
first.
Yeah,
Kudrate Nizam is
yeah.
the coin falling on the other side. That is what
Maybe
it is.
exactly. Or the coin falling straight, and then you go and do the coin toss again. Um, but I think it's immature and whatever word you want to put with that, to see these Indian and Pakistani reporters, ex-cricketers just going after one another on social media. I think particularly Babar Azam's caught a lot from the analysts and TV hosts and people from back in Pakistan. Obviously, there are some rumors of rifts within the team. Ramiz Raza said that Babar looks depressed and he's given him a medical certificate of depression. And, Babar has some issues that he doesn't want to talk about publicly. So these are never nice things to hear. Um, Obviously, seems like Babar has a bit of confidant in Ramiz Raza, and since he was, the president of or
Chairperson.
PCB chairperson of PCB until recently. So, yeah, it's just I think for England the most disheartening thing is there are a lot of runs and wickets for guys, and it's just come at the very wrong time. Because they've finished the tournament with actually 3 wins, and you take 2 more games where they would have done well or they would have tipped the result over in their favor, and they would probably be in semis right now, right? So yeah, it's a tournament of two halves for them. The last 4 games, essentially, I guess they competed quite well. One of them they didn't win, but then the two of them they didn't win, but then the last two they won, obviously. Um, Thoughts on Pakistan's batting?
Pakistan's batting, not to elaborate too much, again, looked disheartened at the top, to put it nicely.
Yeah,
It helps that Willie is bowling really, really well with the new ball. Again, carefree, nothing to lose, proper swan song.
we
Get
gotta
out
we gotta
three.
talk about that. We gotta deep dive into that uh, David Willie's speech after the game.
But outside of that, Babar, Rizwan, at least Babar could have done something. I mean, I don't know, get a century for yourself. You haven't
Yeah,
gotten one
yeah,
this World Cup.
yeah,
Fans are expecting that. Even some haters are expecting you to at least get one, so that they can troll on how you're getting one on
When it
an
doesn't matter
inconsequential
anymore,
match.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Do something, man. Come on.
It just didn't look like they had any interest in chasing the total. No matter what the total was, because obviously they couldn't get it in 6 balls or whatever. I mean, 6.4 overs. But yeah, I mean,
Good that someone like Aga Salman, who didn't exactly get game time in this tournament, he
yeah,
got to get a half century for himself. Good for him.
yeah. And freaking Rauf and Wasim had a little bit of fun at the end. Honestly, they played better. They looked better than some of the top order batters did this whole tournament.
Ralph was
They were
smashing it. He
He
looked
was
he actually
hitting
looked
them
really
clean,
good out there.
man. He was hitting them clean. I was shook by this. I was like, what the hell? I've never seen it. Rough hit them clean. But good for David Willey. Finished with 100 wickets. Obviously, he's got the short end of the short straw every time from England Cricket Board over the last 6, 7 years, you could say. He was a big part of their resurgence in white ball cricket. But unfortunately, they never gave him the, you could say, respect that he deserved, because he's always got sidelined for someone else. So, like he said, for me to announce 3 games left in the World Cup, I announced my retirement because I have 3 games to play and I don't have to look over my shoulder and think, oh, one bad game here and I'm out again. And I think that's as honest and candid as you can get from an international player.
Gus Atkinson, how do you rate his tournament? Have England found a prospect at least for future
Yeah,
white ball
looks good. Looks
tournaments?
good piece. I mean, I think you would need to see how Sakib Mahmood comes back after his injury to really give Gus Atkinson that long-term spot. But you could say he looks good. Played 3 games, I think, at the World Cup. Got the wicket of Babar Azam today, so got that in his pocket. Just out and out, like quick bowler. Obviously, still very raw, not that much experience even in domestic cricket. Kind of just came out of nowhere through some performances in the 100 and whatnot. So, but definitely someone they can work with over the next couple of years. And I think, like we talked about the last episode with England, they will go into a bit of a transition phase and finding guys that can play that 2027 World Cup and things of that nature. So he will definitely be in the mix for that, especially because will Mark Wood play that World Cup? Will he not? A lot of those things will come into play.
You expect Sam Curran to take up a more uh, bigger responsibility now going ahead?
I was surprised he didn't play a lot at the World Cup. He played initially maybe a couple of games or maybe 3 games. Um, I think obviously he's a left arm option, plus he can bat really well. He struggled a little, but I think Sam's still pretty good option in white ball and red ball cricket. England definitely see a lot of potential in him, and his potential is obviously evident. So he should be playing a big part in this new team. I don't see why not. A lot of people don't like the fact that he was the man of the tournament, I think, in the T20 World Cup.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah, last year. But I think he's deserved a bit of a longer run. Sucks for him. Sucks for his older brother, though. Always looked good, but never really kicked on.
But to be fair, Tom Curran was part of the World Cup winning squad.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
that
yeah,
is
World
true.
Cup winning squad.
He
Something
does.
Sam
He
Curran
does
could
have a
never do
medal. Yeah, yeah,
yet.
he does have a medal. That's true. Yeah.
So overall, I think we're pretty much at the end of today's discussion. Just to conclude, how are things looking now going ahead for Pakistan and England? And would it be unfair to say that while we expect big changes to take place in English cricket, Pakistan might just be in bigger trouble just because of all the drama that's constantly going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, too much chirps outside. I think uh, the worst thing for Pakistan is they don't play another ODI game for a year. Their next ODI game is actually in November 2024. So they've messed up a little bit with their scheduling, clearly, because they have not scheduled games properly. And a lot of that is due to PSL being in a very interesting time where it's home season in a lot of countries. So they actually miss out on a chance of a tour and whatnot at that time.
Just
So
before the IPL, when some of the teams
IPL,
are open to international
you
series.
know, international series. So I think that's something that will derail their transition phase because if you're not playing games, how are you gonna pick a squad? Um, and obviously, I think with all the chatter and pro Babar, anti Babar, pro Shaheen, anti Shaheen, pro Rizwan, uh, anti Haris Roff because he
I like
goes
how you
for
didn't say
runs.
anti-Rizwan. I don't think anyone's anti-Rizwan.
No, I don't think
Too
anti
nice.
is.
That's
It's
too
just
nice.
too nice, right? And then and then obviously Haris Roff going for a lot of runs. So do you think they might have selection changes with? They do have an impending conflict of interest case with Inzamam obviously stepping out because Zaka Ashraf, president, claimed a conflict of interest case in a national TV interview. How childish is that? It's like these things just show how unstable some of the subcontinent cricket boards are and how
We
much
saw
that
what happened
actually
with Sri
is.
Lanka.
Yeah, yeah. They're suspended now for the indefinite future from all ICC tournaments unless they sort their shit out. Yeah, it's just never good to see this kind of stuff because it takes the sheen away from the real thing, which is the game. And Pakistan, it's not like Pakistan doesn't have a good squad. South Shakil missed a freaking full toss down the leg side today, but doesn't mean he's a bad player. He's actually looked good for the most part in the World Cup. They just need him converting starts. You know, similarly with Abdullah Shafiq and Babar and all these guys. So, yeah, a lot to look into. And England, I think Rob Key and these guys will sit down and see if Josh Butler is really the one to captain the team, or if they want to choose a different option. But I don't. You see any other options right now for England to choose from as a captain?
Unfortunately, no, because the other leadership figures are, of course, Moeen Ali, someone who is featuring even less regularly in the side.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Ben Stokes, someone who's unlikely to even continue playing ODI cricket. Who
yeah.
does that leave you with? Joe Root? I highly doubt Joe Root is going to continue ODI cricket all
Whoa.
that much, or take up the whole leadership thing after quitting Test captaincy.
Yeah,
So I don't see any option that suggests that Butler will step down
David
immediately. So
Malan.
there needs to be this transition. Malan isn't a bad option per se, but
Yeah,
there's been some off-field drama with him too,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
So he doesn't become a very obvious choice, a
Obvious
very
choice. Yeah,
just a
and
go-to choice.
Being from Yorkshire doesn't help. So
Also, another important factor that you mentioned with Pakistan, ODIs are still not going to take priority after this tournament. They barely
yeah,
took priority before the
before
ODI
the
World Cup.
tournament. Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so they're definitely
What are
not
we saying?
taking priority after the tournament. T20 World Cup is coming in the West Indies this summer. That's not far away. It's
Yeah,
less than a year, just a little over 6 months now. Joss Butler is definitely 100% going to captain there. I don't think there's
yeah.
any doubt
No,
regarding
no,
that.
no.
He's the last
They're not
T20
gonna
World Cup
change
winning
that.
captain after all.
Yeah,
So with
100%.
that said, and with that approach, I think they will just see it off as of now. Like if he's captaining the T20 side, let him captain the ODI side. England don't really
Yeah,
look at ODI and T20 I all that differently. They look at it as having a white ball captain and
extension.
having a red ball captain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So their
yeah.
white ball captain is just gonna keep captaining the white ball
Yeah,
side. That's how I
yeah,
see
and
it.
he's one of their best white ball players of all time. He's had a shitty tournament, obviously, but you know, there are no questions or comments about him as he doesn't do favoritism. He doesn't do like I don't know conflict of interest, or he's not snobbish, or he's not aggressive. None of those things, right? He's just had a bad tournament as a captain and as a team, and they've been very vocal about that, and they've been honest about that. So, yeah, you give them the chance, and especially like you said, you give him the chance to defend the cup that he won last year.
So thank you very much, Fardin, and thank you to everyone for watching. It was a double header, the last double header of the tournament. We'll be back tomorrow with the last group stage game. And Fardin, just one thing before we conclude, and we'll talk about this even more tomorrow. Does it feel like this whole Champions Trophy thing, even though we spoke about it being a little unfair, to have it
Yeah,
in the middle of this tournament, the whole
yeah.
Champions Trophy selection thing, do you feel like it was done to keep so a lot of these group stage games
The group
relevant?
stage.
Because
Yeah,
even tomorrow's game is very consequential. It's not inconsequential at
no,
all.
no. And Netherlands still in it.
Very much in
Away,
it.
if they they surge an upset or they cause an upset against India,
Rain. All they need
or
is rain.
rain, or there is rain, they go through to the Champions Trophy. So I think once they realized, oh, top 4 and 5 is pretty set, they've gone and said, we'll make it this way so that every match has a context to it. Every match matters, and people cannot say that this was a boring World Cup, this was an inconsequential World Cup. And yeah, I think there are four best script writers in India, and Jaisha is one of them. So it helps in that case.
All jokes aside, we hope that we get something good from the Champions League. Look, as Bangladesh fans, here's my take. I can say the Netherlands deserve it more than Bangladesh. I can
Yeah.
also say that I am not fully objective here and I want Bangladesh to go through. 15
Hmm.
months later, today I can say that no, Netherlands play well, they deserve it. 15 months later, I'm going to regret that. 15 months later, when I switch on the television to watch the Champions Trophy,
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
think, why isn't Bangladesh there? That's
And
naturally the first thing that'll come to my mind.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so the whole thing is, unfortunately, that not always do the deserving teams get what they deserve. Tomorrow
Zimbabwe.
could be an instance of that.
Yeah.
We'll know. I'm sorry, not
We'll
tomorrow. It's
know
actually today.
today.
We'll
Yeah.
know
So we'll
when it
know.
happens.
I
And we'll
got
be
my
back
money. I got
tomorrow
my
with the
money on
last morning
Netherlands. So
after from the group stage, and we'll see how
let's
things
see.
pan out.
We'll see. Thank you.